Good day, everyone. My name is Darren, and I am a Senior Education Program Specialist from the Bureau of Learning Delivery, Teaching and Learning Division. And this is my humble attempt to walk you through with the NLC Teaching and Learning resources. Some of you have already attended the capacity building on the National Learning Camp last year. So this time, we'll be having an orientation to provide an opportunity to revisit and deepen your understanding about the components of the NLC teaching and learning resources. In this session, you are expected to, number one, explain the features and components of English teaching and learning resources across grade levels. At the same time, you are also expected to demonstrate effective utilization of different English teaching and learning resources across grade levels through a lesson demonstration. And lastly, you are also expected to exhibit a strong commitment to ensuring the seamless implementation of the National Learning Camp for end of school year 2024. For the outline of my presentation, first, we'll be talking about the NLC teaching and learning resources, focusing on the format or structure, components, and the contents. And lastly, we'll be having a demonstration of the NLC teaching and learning resources. Please take note that a lucky participant will also have a lesson demonstration focusing on his or her chosen lesson or camp. In the NLC, there are three camps, and these are: first, we have the enhancement camp. The second, we have here the consolidation camp. And the last one is the intervention camp. So let us have a quick review of what are these camps all about and how are they different from each other. So enhancement camp enriches learning for advanced learners by providing greater depth, breadth, and complexity of learning area competencies, while consolidation camp, it provides a further practice and application of previously taught competencies. And lastly, which is the intervention camp, which supports learners who are yet to grasp foundational mathematics and or foundational English skills. While all three camps aim to support learners in their educational journey, they differ in their focus and target learners. For the enhancement camp, it caters to advanced learners by providing intellectually stimulating challenges, while the consolidation camp reinforces previously taught material for all learners. And the intervention camp, it provides targeted support for learners who are struggling with foundational skills. So each camp plays a crucial role in addressing the diverse needs of students within the educational system. So let us take a look closely at the components of the NLC teaching and learning resources. And this time, we will only focus on the consolidation camp since it has the same components with enhancement camp. So particularly for the sample lesson, I will walk you through with the week 1, lesson 2, which is identifying key ideas in a narrative, and we will discuss the components one by one. So the following are the lesson components of consolidation and enhancement camps. So the first one is lesson short review. The second one is lesson purpose. The third one is language practice. And the fourth one is lesson activity. And then the last one is lesson conclusion. So the first component is the lesson short review. So this component settles the class quickly and reviews or previously encountered information and content through a few targeted questions that are relevant to the current lesson. And a total of 7 minutes is allotted for this component. So here is the sample lesson plan of consolidation camp where you can see the time allotment, questions to be asked, skills that the teacher can use or may use during the class, and the suggested answers to the questions. So please keep in mind that the questions in the lesson plan can be altered or can be changed by the teacher depending on his or her own preference. So for the second component, which is the lesson purpose, so this component allows teachers to explain the purpose or intention of the lesson to the learners and establish its link with their prior knowledge or experience. And a total of 3 minutes is allotted for this component. So at the same time, please keep in mind that the allotment of minutes per component is flexible. So the teacher has the flexibility to adjust the minutes to be designated per component as long as it will not be more than 45 minutes in total. And then for example, so as you can see, we have here the lesson purpose and then what the teacher will do for the first bullet. And then the second bullet focuses on the skill that the teacher may use during the delivery of the camp. For the third component, so we have language practice. And then this component focuses on language use of words or phrases that can be found or that can be used in the text. Okay. And at the same time, these words have the potential to cause difficulties for learners to understand. Hence, their use is practice and meanings are unlocked in this component. And a total of 5 minutes is allotted for this component. So here is the sample lesson plan for that particular component. So as you can see, there are words or vocabulary words that can be found as well in the text. And then for the fourth component, which is the lesson activity. So this component addresses the key ideas for the lesson. And it involves learners applying known content to solve real world problems. At the same time, component 4 has three aspects. So these are 4A, 4B, and 4C, which we will discuss in a while. And a total of 25 minutes is allotted for this component. For lesson component 4, which is the lesson activity, it has the highest number of minutes in the among the five components because in the lesson activity, this one is considered as the meat of the lesson camp or the learning camp rather. So all of the content, important content or ideas in the lesson can be found in lesson component 4. So here are the three aspects. So the first one is 4A, which is reading and understanding the stem or the text. 4B is the first set of questions. And then the 4C is the second set of questions. So later on, we will find out how the first and the second sets of questions differ with each other. So for lesson component 4A, it involves understanding the language of the stem, and the teacher has a different purposes here. First, to model fluent reading of the text. So the teacher will read first the text and then to identify any unfamiliar language for the student, which we possibly addressed in component 3. But always remember that there are times that students cannot understand some words, even though they are already easy to understand, because we have different kinds of students. At the same time, to read the passage or describe the figure. And lastly, to hear and experience fluency in reading the stem or the text. So here is the sample for 4A. So as you can see, we have there the very short sample story. And then for 4B, which is solving the first set of questions, it involves a set of questions associated with the stem. Preferably, there are three questions for 4B. And then students will need to refer to the stem as they prepare to answer the set of questions. And then students write down responses or attempts at each question. So here, the learner may write his or her answer in the worksheet, or the teacher may ask them to answer the question orally. So that depends on how the teacher will deliver the lesson. At the same time, it is important that every student in the class is expected to have a response for each question. Furthermore, it is expected and acceptable that students would make errors which provide the teachers with important information concerning students' learning needs. So here is the sample lesson plan for lesson component 4B, which is the first set of questions. As you can see in the lesson plan, there are three questions, and the answers for these questions can be easily found in the text that the learners read. Okay, so that's for the first set of questions. While for the second set of questions, which is 4C, it offers a new start for students regardless of how they performed in component 4B. At the same time, the structure is very similar to component 4B, and that is undertaking a new set of questions related to the same theme. In addition, the lesson structure allows a refresh as 4C presents a new starting point for the student. However, the difference between 4C and 4B is that the questions for 4B are questions that do not require higher order thinking skills or critical thinking skills, while for lesson component 4C or the second set of questions, the kind of questions that we have here allows the learners to develop their critical thinking skills. And then this approach serves two purposes for teachers. First, it enables teachers to bring all students back together to proceed as a group with issues able to be directed to and considered by every student at the same time. Second, it offers teachers a way to extend their students' problem solving skills or practice, where a different set of questions can be used with a single stem. So this is an efficient way to incorporate more problem solving or comprehension practice on specific content into a lesson. At the same time, please remember that for consolidation camp, lesson component 4C is not compulsory to be answered by the learners. It depends on the teacher whether he or she will use the questions under component 4C. While for enhancement camp, answering lesson component 4C is required. Okay, so that's how they differ. It's not compulsory for consolidation camp, but if the teacher would like his or her students to answer the questions under component 4C, he or she may do so, but it's not required. But for enhancement camp, component 4C questions are required to be answered by the learners. So here is the sample lesson plan under component 4C. So as you can see, the kind of questions that we have here require the learners to use their critical thinking skills. And then at the same time, there is a suggested answer. And then for the last component, which is lesson conclusion, this component is designed to offer a student-focused overview of the main intentions of the lesson and confirm lesson mastery by stimulating discussion and reflection on learners' new learnings. And a total of 5 minutes is allotted in this component. So here is a sample lesson plan for lesson conclusion. In the lesson conclusion, there are questions to be answered by the learners. So there are three questions. However, the teacher has the flexibility again to change whether how he or she will present lesson conclusion. It may not be in a form of questions, and that depends on how the teacher will use his or her pedagogical or any pedagogical approach under lesson conclusion.